The silent stalker. The emergency lights cast crimson shadows across Andromeda Station's command deck as Commander Sarah Chen pressed her palm against the bioscanner. Her heartbeat remained steady at 60 beats per minute, a physiological anomaly that had marked her as special since childhood. While other species in the Galactic Coalition measured superiority through strength, speed, or telepathic abilities, humans had evolved something far more terrifying. They had evolved patience. The station hung in the void between three star systems, a neutral ground where the Coalition had summoned humanity's representatives. Sarah knew this meeting would determine whether Earth joined the galactic community or faced extinction. What the aliens didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this moment for 300,000 years, ever since their ancestors first stood upright on the African savanna. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood beside her, his weathered face betraying nothing as the massive view screen flickered to life. 7 alien species materialized in holographic form, each more imposing than the last. The Krellians stood 9 feet tall with crystalline exoskeletons that could deflect plasma fire. The Nexari floated in specialized atmosphere chambers, their tentacles capable of crushing titanium. The Vorthak displayed rows of teeth that could bite through starship hulls. Yet Sarah noticed something they all shared. Every single one of them breathed rapidly, their various respiratory systems working overtime. They were apex predators in their own worlds, built for explosive action and devastating strikes. But they had never encountered persistence predators before. They had never met humans. The Krellian ambassador spoke first, his voice resonating through the universal translator. Humans of Earth, you stand accused of possessing weapons that violate the covenant of civilized warfare. Your species must surrender all military technology and submit to coalition oversight, or face immediate termination. Sarah exchanged glances with Admiral Rivera. The coalition had monitored humanity's rapid technological advancement over the past century, but they had focused on the wrong things. They feared nuclear weapons, antimatter drives, and quantum computers. They never considered that humanity's greatest weapon was something far more primitive and infinitely more dangerous. Ambassador Krex, Sarah replied, her voice calm as still water. We respect the coalition's concerns. However, we must inform you that our greatest weapon cannot be surrendered because it exists within our very DNA. We are persistence hunters, and that nature cannot be changed. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. The Nexari's tentacles writhed in what Sarah recognized as confusion. They didn't understand. How could they? Their worlds had never produced anything like humans. Explain, demanded Krex, his crystalline form catching the red emergency lights. Sarah stepped forward, her movements deliberate and measured. 300,000 years ago, our ancestors developed a unique hunting strategy. While other predators relied on speed, strength, or stealth for quick kills, humans learned to simply follow. We would track prey for hours, days even, maintaining a steady pace while our quarry exhausted itself through repeated sprints. We hunted through persistence, the Vorthak representative snarled, displaying those impressive teeth. Primitive behavior has no relevance to modern warfare. Doesn't it? Admiral Rivera interjected. Your species, Ambassador Vorthak, can maintain combat readiness for approximately 4 hours before requiring rest. Krellians can fight for 6. Humans can remain combat effective for 72 hours straight with minimal degradation in performance. We don't tire. We don't stop. We simply continue. The statement hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah could see the aliens processing this information, their various cognitive organs working to understand the implications. They had expected to intimidate humanity with displays of superior firepower and advanced technology. They hadn't expected to face a species that had evolved to outlast everything else. Suddenly, the station's proximity alarm screamed. Sarah's hand moved to her sidearm, noting that her heart rate had increased by only 5 beats per minute, while the alien holograms showed signs of extreme stress responses. On the view screen, a massive ship materialized from hyperspace, its hull darker than the void itself. Void hunters, whispered Krex, his crystalline form actually trembling. Sarah had heard rumors of the void hunters, a species so dangerous that even the coalition feared them. They were said to be perfect killers, capable of stalking prey across entire star systems. They had never been defeated in combat because they struck from shadow and vanished before retaliation was possible. The Void Hunter ship launched boarding pods before anyone could react. Sarah heard them impact the station's hull, the reverberations traveling through the deck plating. The Coalition representatives' holograms flickered and died as they severed connections, abandoning the humans to their fate. So much for galactic unity. All stations prepare for boarding, Admiral Rivera commanded, his voice carrying through the station's communication system. Remember your training. We are humans. We endure. Sarah moved to the tactical station, her fingers flying across the controls as she brought up the station's internal sensors. The Void Hunters were moving through the station like smoke, their forms barely registering on any spectrum. They were hunting the humans, using every advantage their evolution had given them. But Sarah smiled. It was a cold expression, one that would have terrified any alien who understood its meaning. The Void Hunters thought they were the hunters here. They were about to learn why humans had survived everything Earth had thrown at them, from ice ages to super predators to each other. Admiral, she said quietly, implement protocol persistence. Rivera nodded. All personnel, protocol persistence is now in effect. Remember, we don't need to be faster. We don't need to be stronger. We just need to be there when they finally stop moving. Throughout the station, 300 human personnel began their work. They didn't rush to defensive positions or prepare elaborate ambushes. They simply started walking, steady, measured paces through the corridors, maintaining visual contact with the Void Hunters' signatures on their displays. Never approaching directly, never retreating too far. Just following. The Void Hunters, accustomed to prey that either fought frantically or fled in terror, found themselves facing something unprecedented. The humans wouldn't engage, but they wouldn't leave either. They just maintained presence, always visible on the edge of sensor range, always walking at that same maddening pace. Hours passed. The Void Hunters, despite their reputation, were still biological entities. They needed rest, sustenance, and recovery time. Their initial lightning strikes had yielded nothing, and now they found themselves being slowly, methodically tracked through their own hunting ground. Every time they stopped to rest, the humans were there, just out of reach, just watching, waiting. Sarah monitored the situation from the command center, noting the increasing stress patterns in the Void Hunters' movements. They were making mistakes, now small ones, but mistakes nonetheless. Their perfect stealth was failing as exhaustion set in. Their coordinated attacks were becoming sloppy. They were experiencing something their species had never encountered in a million years of evolution. They were being persistence hunted. Commander, reported Lieutenant Harris from the sensor station. The Void Hunters are consolidating in Section 7. Their biosigns indicate extreme fatigue. Sarah nodded. For 12 hours, the humans had maintained their steady pursuit. Shift changes had been seamless, fresh personnel replacing tired ones without missing a step. The Void Hunters had no such luxury. They were alone, cut off from their ship by human jamming signals, trapped in a station with a species that simply would not stop coming. Admiral, they're ready, Sarah said. Rivera activated the station-wide communication. All units commence final approach. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to make them understand. The humans closed in, still maintaining that steady, relentless pace. The Void Hunters, exhausted beyond their species' endurance, could barely raise their weapons. When the humans finally stopped, surrounding them in a perfect circle, it wasn't with weapons drawn or threats of violence. Sarah stepped forward, her heart rate still barely elevated, and spoke to the lead Void Hunter. We could have killed you hours ago, she said simply. But that's not the point. The point is that we could have followed you forever. Your species hunts in bursts of perfect violence. Ours hunts through imperfect persistence. You are apex predators. We are something else entirely. We are the hunters who never stop. The Void Hunter's response came through a translation matrix, its voice carrying exhaustion and something else, respect perhaps, or fear. What are you? Sarah smiled again, and this time it reached her eyes. We are human. We are the species that walked out of Africa and kept walking until we covered the entire planet. We are the ones who tracked mammoths across glaciers and followed herds across continents. We don't sprint to victory, we walk to it one step at a time, for as long as it takes. The becoming. The lead void hunter, who identified himself as Shadow of Stars, stood on trembling legs that had never before failed him. His species had evolved on a world of eternal twilight, where the hunt was quick and decisive. They had never conceived of predation as a marathon rather than a sprint. As the human commander stood before him, showing no signs of the 12-hour pursuit, he began to understand that the galaxy had made a terrible miscalculation about humanity. Your coalition, Shadow of Stars said, his words coming through labored breaths. They fear you for the wrong reasons. Admiral Rivera stepped forward, offering water to the exhausted void hunters. It was a gesture that confused them. No species in the known galaxy showed mercy to defeated enemies. The coalition sees our nuclear weapons and assumes we're just another violent species to be contained. They don't understand that our greatest achievement isn't the ability to destroy, but the ability to endure. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's history. Our planet tried to kill us repeatedly. Ice ages, volcanic winters, mega droughts, diseases, predators far more powerful than us. Every other species we've encountered evolved on worlds that challenged them to be stronger or faster. Earth challenged us to be more persistent, to outlast everything. The void hunters watched as images flashed by. Early humans tracking wounded prey for days. Marathon runners covering impossible distances. Arctic explorers walking through frozen wastelands. Astronauts spending years in space. Each image told the same story of a species that had weaponized endurance itself. But this is only the beginning, Sarah continued. What happens when a persistence predator develops technology? When we can track not just across savannas, but across star systems? When our endurance isn't limited by biology, but enhanced by it? Shadow of Stars felt something he had never experienced before. It wasn't just fear or respect. It was the recognition of a superior predator, not in terms of strength or speed, but in terms of inevitability. The humans weren't threatening. They were simply stating facts. The station's communication system crackled to life. The coalition representatives had re-established contact, their various forms appearing on the view screen. Ambassador Kreck spoke first, his tone noticeably different from before. Humans, we have monitored your interaction with the Void Hunters. The coalition wishes to discuss terms. Sarah and Rivera exchanged glances. The coalition had watched humanity persistence hunt the galaxy's most feared predators into submission without firing a single shot. The demonstration had been more effective than any weapon display could have been. Ambassador, Rivera replied, we're willing to discuss integration into the coalition, but our terms have changed. We will not surrender our nature. We will not submit to oversight. Instead, we offer partnership. The Nexari representative writhed in what Sarah recognized as agitation. You dare make demands after we have seen what you truly are? Because you have seen what we truly are, Sarah corrected. Think about it. Every conflict in coalition space has been resolved through quick, decisive action. Wars last days, maybe weeks. What happens when an enemy knows that humans will pursue them not for weeks but for years? Decades if necessary? What happens when they realize that signing a peace treaty with humans doesn't mean we stop watching, stop walking, stop being there? The implications settled over the coalition like a shroud. Humans wouldn't just be another member species. They would be the civilization that never stopped, never tired, never gave up. They would be the ones who could maintain blockades for generations, who could track pirates across the galaxy, who could ensure that agreements were kept not through threat of violence, but through the promise of eternal vigilance. Shadow of Stars spoke up, his voice carrying new understanding. The humans offer something the coalition has never had. Not soldiers, but sentinels. Not conquerors, but guarantors. They offer persistence. The Void Hunter's endorsement carried weight. If the galaxy's apex predators recognized human superiority in this regard, who were the coalition to disagree? But there was more to reveal, and Sarah knew the next part would either secure humanity's place in the galaxy or doom them. "There's something else you need to understand," she said, pulling up new data on the display. "Humans don't just persistence hunt physically. We do it mentally, emotionally, technologically. When we commit to something, we don't stop until it's achieved." The display showed human scientific advancement, not the weapons that scared the coalition, but the other achievements. The decades-long projects to cure diseases. The century-spanning efforts to reverse climate damage. The multi-generational ships sent to distant stars before faster-than-light travel was achieved. Their crews willing to live and die in space, so their descendants might see new worlds. "Your species solve problems through bursts of brilliance," Sarah explained. "You have breakthrough moments of innovation. Humans solve problems through persistent iteration. We try, fail, learn, and try again. We do this for as long as it takes. The Krellians developed FTL travel in a decade of focused research. It took humans 2 centuries, but we never stopped trying. And when we finally achieved it, we had also developed 17 other technologies along the way, each a solution to a problem we encountered during our persistence." Admiral Rivera added, "This is why we've advanced so quickly since first contact. Every technology we've encountered, we've studied relentlessly. Not to copy, but to understand, to iterate, to improve through countless small steps rather than giant leaps." The coalition representatives were silent. They were processing not just what humans were, but what they represented for the galaxy. They were looking at a species that would never stop improving, never stop advancing, never stop pursuing whatever goal they set. It was terrifying and magnificent in equal measure. Shadow of Stars moved to stand beside the humans, a gesture that shocked everyone present. The Void Hunters had never allied with anyone before. "The galaxy changes today," he announced. "Not through war or conquest, but through recognition. The humans are not our enemies or our prey. They are what we all must become if we are to survive what comes next." "What comes next?" Ambassador Krex asked, his crystalline form shifting nervously. Sarah pulled up deep space sensor data, showing the edge of the galaxy. "We've been tracking something for the past 5 years, something approaching from intergalactic space. It's moving slowly, steadily, but it's coming. The Coalition's quick strike capabilities won't stop it. The Void Hunter's perfect ambushes won't stop it. But human persistence might." The data revealed a massive object, larger than any known structure, moving through the void between galaxies. It wasn't accelerating or decelerating, just maintaining a constant, inexorable approach. It was, Sarah realized, doing exactly what humans did. It was persistence hunting on a galactic scale. "You need us," Admiral Rivera stated simply. "Not our weapons or our technology, but our nature. You need a species that can match that thing's patience, that can track it, study it, and confront it not in a decisive battle, but in an endurance contest that might last millennia." The Coalition's decision came quickly after that. Faced with an enemy that embodied their worst fears about humanity, they realized that those same traits might be their salvation. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would join the Coalition not as subjects but as partners, their unique nature recognized as essential for galactic survival. As the agreements were formalized, Shadow of Stars approached Sarah privately. "Your species terrifies me," he admitted. "Not because of what you can destroy, but because of what you can endure. You have turned suffering into strength, patience into power. You have weaponized time itself." Sarah nodded. "And now we'll teach the rest of the galaxy to do the same." The approaching threat won't face 7 different species with 7 different strengths. It will face a united galaxy that has learned humanity's greatest lesson, that persistence is the ultimate predator. The station's lights shifted from emergency red to normal white as the crisis passed. Around them, Humans and aliens began to interact with a new understanding. The Void Hunters shared their stealth techniques while humans explained endurance training. The Krellians offered their defensive technologies while humans demonstrated logistics chains that could maintain supply lines for decades. The galaxy was transforming, one patient step at a time. Sarah looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, the approaching threat continued its steady advance. It would find the galaxy ready when it arrived, not with weapons charged for a single decisive battle, but with the collective will to resist for as long as necessary. It would face not just humanity, but a galaxy that had learned to be human. The hunter's paradox had been resolved. The greatest predators weren't those who struck hardest or fastest. They were those who never stopped hunting. And now, the entire galaxy had become persistence hunters. As Shadow of Stars departed with his crew, now allied with humanity, he left Sarah with a final thought. Your ancestors who walked out of Africa could never have imagined this moment, that their simple strategy of walking after prey until it collapsed would one day save the galaxy. Sarah smiled, that same cold expression that had started this encounter. They didn't need to imagine it. They just needed to start walking. Every journey, no matter how impossible, begins with a single step and the will to keep taking the next one. That's what makes us human. And now, it's what will make us all survivors. The transformation of the galaxy had begun, not with a bang, but with a steady, persistent march toward a future where endurance would triumph over strength, where patience would overcome power, and where the human way of persistence would become the universal way of survival. The hunt was eternal, and humanity had taught the galaxy to embrace it.